Thank you very much. My name is Jennifer Wood. I'm the Executive Director of the Rhode Island Center for Justice, and we work with community partners, specifically PRISM, Providence Student Union, ARISE, Rhode Island Urban Debate League, Young Voices, and Youth in Action, along with Cycle and other adult allies. We work with these youth-led organizations in coalition to address issues that are of concern to youth in the Providence Public Schools, and specifically in the context of the state takeover of the Providence Public Schools. And this has been a tremendously frustrating process surrounding the issue of a very simple proposition: removing police from the public schools. This is an issue that you've heard has been a core concern to Black and Brown students and to a wide coalition of students in the Providence Public Schools long before the takeover. This has been an issue that's been before the school board in the past and has been before multiple decision makers who are elected officials. But people are simply not listening to the clear and direct data, reports, and personal voices of young people who are directly impacted by the presence of armed officers in their place of learning. And what I have heard as an adult ally and as a community partner over and over, and intensifying over the last 14 months, is that young people who are in the public schools feel unsafe, feel harmed, feel unable to attend to their learning, feel distracted from the purpose of their education, which is to be in a safe, supportive environment where they can learn and thrive so they can move on with their lives and succeed as adults. If the testimony has come in over and over again in a variety of public forums, including most recently a direct meeting with the governor on this very topic, where young people very eloquently express this point over and over again. It is harmful and damaging to have armed officers who are symbols of white supremacy and oppression in an environment of learning. And what it does is it makes it not a learning environment. It makes it an armed setting where people cannot attend to their own learning and well-being. And let's not forget the other side of the equation. It's not simply that young people are saying that they need to have a source of trauma removed from the learning environment, but also that they need more mental health support, more supportive environments, teachers, administrators, and other educators who understand and support them. And going to school every day with armed officers basically reinforces that other side of the equation, that a supportive, nurturing culture and environment of schools is not present. And that in fact, no matter how loud and how concerted their voices are, that those voices will be ignored and that they will be marginalized in the learning environment. This is the message that has come through loud and clear. And I was very alarmed when Erlen reported that it is the current policy and position of the Providence Public Schools, the commissioner, and the governor that police officers should be in the schools and that the program should be made, quote, more robust, which actually suggests doubling down and expanding rather than hearing the voices of those who are directly affected and learning in the schools, and to remove those officers. Because actually, over the last year, the policy and position of the Providence Public Schools and the commissioner had evolved based on an intensive data collection process, the presentation by the community of detailed reports that clearly demonstrate that the presence of police in the schools is dangerous to young people, causes harm, increases the number of arrests, increases the number of suspensions, increases the number of assaults of young people, and disproportionately impacts in each of those three arenas, Black and Brown young people. So the evidence is in. This is not an open question. The reports have been compiled. They have been shared. They were shared with the prior governor. They were shared with the current governor. They've been shared with the school board in the past. And last summer, there was this whole study that needed to happen. So there were 3 public meetings hosted by PPSD and the commissioner's office because the counterpoint that was being made to young people whose voices clearly were calling for the removal of police from the schools was, well, you know, there are a lot of families that really kind of want police in the schools. So we need to hold public forums in order for those voices to also be heard. There were 3 public forums. I attended every single one of them, as did many people who are here to talk to you this evening. After the first public forum, when there was literally not a single voice raised to support any policy of having police in the schools, it was so sad that the voices that were brought to the next 2 meetings were those of student resource officers themselves to justify their position and their role in the schools, because there was no one else showing up who was going to support that policy. And I felt certainly very sad that people were put into that position to have to defend their own livelihood and their existence in their role. And it was also very clear evidence that they did not understand the difference between the role of a police officer and the role of a counselor, a social worker, an educator, a supportive person in the school to support the learning environment. And through, I don't know, something like 6 hours of public meetings, 3 different sessions on 3 different occasions, the overwhelming input that was received was that the community wants police officers out of the schools. And the only voices raised to retain police officers were, unfortunately, the officers themselves, which was a sad reality. And now we fast forward, we've been through a whole additional school year during a pandemic. The reports have been issued, the data has been clearly collected. The ACLU, who's present in this meeting tonight, has been collecting statistics on the disproportionate impact on Black and Brown students of having police in schools and on the pattern of suspension and expulsion and lost learning time for years. So to suggest that this needs further study is very insulting and does not really match the deliberations that have already been undertaken in a number of public settings by a number of public bodies. So I would really ask that if the school board is considering issuing a resolution, that it not be a half measure, that any resolution that calls for further study or for a phased approach to this issue really would not be supportive of the clear voices that have been collected over a period of years in terms of the community's experiences. And I would request that if the school board is considering the issuance of a resolution, that resolution call for the immediate and complete removal of police from the public schools, the establishment of police-free schools, in order that then the Providence Public School Department and dedicated public servants like Dr. Mullen can move forward to build a school culture that is supportive of students, that is built on principles of restorative justice, all of the things that have been discussed in this context over a period of several years. Thank you for your time and attention to this issue, and I would really implore you to issue such a resolution.